Hey, everybody. So I missed my Mistopher Christopher show yesterday. And last week's, I'll be honest, I wasn't feeling it. Can't do these things just on demand. You know? Need some Viagra or something if you're going to expect me to just perform at a moment's notice, even with more than a moment's notice. But here I am this week. And I've titled this episode of the Mistopher Christopher show, I Just Can't Relate. How many of you out there listening today, gentle listeners, are looking at what people are choosing and the way the world is going and the strange divisiveness that we all live with at the moment and go, I don't get it. Why are we choosing this? What is going on here with people? What's it all about? But one of the great things is you don't have to. You don't have to get what people are going on about or what they've decided is important. It's like, what if instead of trying to relate to what other people are choosing and make sense of it or find out where it's right or where it's wrong, you just had a look at what's true for you? You know what I mean? Like if you were having your life, your reality, where would you find that? And what choices would you have to make to have the reality that you would like to live in? Is nothing that's going on around you you have to suffer or be the victim of. You have total choice. There's an amazing movie that I love watching from the 1950s called Anti-Main with Rosalind Russell. They did a later version with I think Ethel Merman or somebody. It's not as good. And I think they turned it into a musical. Don't bother with that one. The 1950s version with Rosalind Russell is amazing. And there's one of my favorite quotes in the world is, the universe is a banquet, but most poor bastards out there are starving to death. And this sums up for me in a nutshell of what I see to be true about how the universe works. There's so much available. There is so much on offer, but most of us only choose from this little limited place we think we can choose from. Whereas you actually, if you were an artist, you have a palette with every color of the rainbow available to you to start playing with, to create with. And most people limit themselves to like just the primary colors. One of the best parts about the movie, to kind of give you another idea of this, is she constantly and continuously decorates her house. And you'll see her go through different times in her life, and the whole thing will be Chinese, and then the whole thing will be like crazy modern, and then the whole thing will be like weird safari, and there'll be rhinoceroses coming out of the walls, and it's so fabulous and so fun and so creative. And to me, it represents that like vivid, vivacious, exciting, explosive, creative idea that we can all just go for it. You don't have to choose anything forever. You can change it, and things can look however you want. If you look around your life right now, the place you live, the place you work, the people that you hang out with, the way you've even decorated, does it work for you? Are you happy with it? Or are you just handling what you've been given? See, the most creative element on the planet and the key to creation, as far as I can tell, in my limited years of experience, is choice. Everything is a choice. And if everything was a choice, what would you actually like to change? What would you actually like to be different? Would you like more people in your life? Would you actually like more time on your own? Would you like to travel more? Would you like what? There's no right way. What works for you? Now, some of what I'm saying may sound like, yeah, I know, but it's insidious. The things that you're doing in your life that you think oh, this is what I have to do. Or this is the way I'm supposed to do it. I'm supposed to drink this much water a day and eat this many vegetables. And I'm supposed to have this much sleep. And I'm supposed to save this much money for taxes. And I'm supposed to. This is the thing. Creation and creativity comes from choice. And choice is where you start questioning all those have tos and go, do I really? If I was having my reality, then what would I choose? Like, have you ever been up really late at night and you know you have to be awake early the next morning and you start freaking out and go, I should be in bed by now. I'm going to have a terrible day tomorrow. Is that true? What if your body actually didn't need that much sleep? And the choice to stay awake gave you more space to choose different things and be creative in a different way. Like, let's take an example. Relationships, say, for example. So I myself have a relationship. Well, I've got lots of different relationships. I'm married. But when I chose to get married, I had to look at what I truly desired to have in my life. I was actually looking at a lot of the people that I knew around me in the world, and I'll name two people in particular that have a relationship that I saw, and I was like, this is cool. And they are my friends Stephen Bowman and Chutissa Bowman in Melbourne. They are fabulous, inspirational people. I definitely would Google them and check them out if you're looking for something different. They've written a lot of different books, mostly on the topics of wealth creation, leadership, and business. They have a fabulous perspective on that and have been huge influence and mentors in my life in that area. But I was looking at their life and I was looking at how creative they are as a couple. As I say, every time you turn around, they're publishing a new book and they're all sensational. I mean, every time Melbourne's gone into lockdown, and if you know about Melbourne here in Australia, they've had pretty intense long lockdowns during this coronavirus scenario. And whenever I talk to Chutissa about it, she says, well, what'll I create this time? You know, she gets so much done and instituted because she chooses that. She lives from so much question, and question, as I said, is one of the most important elements of creation. So I looked at their relationship and I said, that's something that interests me. I would like a relationship where together we create exponentially more than we can alone, which is exactly what I found. And then I started looking at some of the other things that I was looking for and would like to choose and have in my life. And I went, I find, don't take offense at this, I find so many people out there today a little bit boring. I'm interested in the people that are challenging the norm and breaking boundaries with what they are creating and how they're willing to look at the world. And I was like, so many of the gay men my age, they were more interested in Britney Spears than they were breaking boundaries. I was like, wow, we've become such consumers of media and pop culture that we can't relate to anything beyond that. Again, what did I call this live? I just can't relate. Because for me, people my generation, I was like, I don't get it. And so I asked the universe, this is what I asked the universe for. I said, I would like to meet the Oscar Wilde of my generation. Now, for those of you who don't know who Oscar Wilde is, Oscar Wilde was a Victorian author from Ireland who moved to England and sort of became part of the London intelligentsia of literature and art, and he wrote plays, and he was quite funny and very flippant with his remarks, but he was very critical, I guess, of the day. Reiko says, I so relate to, I just can't relate, right? And Oscar Wilde, one of his funniest quotes, I love his quotes. He said some really funny, like he just had this wicked zinging one-liner ability. And he said, fashion is something so incredibly ugly that we have to change it every 6 months. This was a funny guy. You know, if you say that to anyone in the fashion industry, they take themselves so terribly seriously that they'd be offended. But I think it's funny. And so I was asking for that. I was asking for the Oscar Wilde of my generation. And along came this guy. And I was like, huh. I asked for this, and the universe delivered. He delivered this person who had this capacity to create, and together we could create exponentially more than we could alone. And we had this synergistic knowing of each other in terms of a love of art and design. And there's just so much that was like, yep, you match energetically exactly what I've been asking for. And that was that. And that was the start of the relationship that I created, because I wasn't satisfied. I couldn't relate to what people were valuing in the world around me. And I wanted something different. And that's what I chose, and that's what I created. And what's the most fundamental aspect of creation? Choice. So, hey, I'm loving reading all the comments that we have coming in here in the chat. And I just want to say, if anyone has a question or something they want to add and say, I'm very happy to entertain any questions that you may have, be them on Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde actually went to prison for being a homosexual. He was gay way before it was fashionable, and got into a lot of trouble because he was sleeping with the son of a lord who he was a lord, or he was part of the aristocracy, and he was sleeping with his son, and they would have these fabulous, debauched, decadent parties at the Savoy Hotel in London. And some of the staff from the Savoy Hotel took the stand and testified against Oscar Wilde. And so he went to prison. And when he left prison, he headed to France and actually died quite sad and poor. And when he died, he said, well, it's rumored. We're not sure if he actually said this or not, but the rumor is he was on his deathbed and he was looking around the room and he said, this wallpaper is so ugly, either it goes or I do. And we're not sure. Sounds like something he would say. So I just can't relate. How many of you look around and go, I don't get it. Why are people choosing this? Guess what? You don't have to. Annalise says she's excited for the empowerment call with me and Emily Evans Russell. Yeah, me too. She has a group called Club Neon that I'm going to be speaking with her about empowerment on just next week, in a few days. So if you're interested, have a look for Emily Evans Russell and Club Neon. Now, while we're on the topic of relationship, I want to bring up, sorry, someone's trying to ring me, a class that is coming up here in Brisbane, Australia, called Relationship Done Different. I gave you guys the story of how I created my relationship. Sorry. Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, keeps calling me. I'm just letting him know that I'm online with you guys. So Simone Milas's and Relationships Done Different. This is a fabulous thing. It's actually a seminar that Simone does and started with her ex-partner, Brendan Watt, she was in a long-standing relationship with Brendan Watt. They were together for 8 or 9 years. They had properties. They were raising a kid together, a dog, the whole bit. And then they went, you know what? This isn't working anymore. And they decided to go their separate ways. Now, in this reality, what most people would do is go, oh my God, what right do they have to be talking about relationship? Their relationship is over. It failed. But the beautiful part about what they talk about is it's not about getting relationship right or doing it a certain way, because if you're doing relationship right, it lasts forever, right? But what if actually the most empowering thing about having a relationship was recognizing when it was no longer a contribution anymore and you actually were better off parting ways? People change over time. Our desires change. The things we want to create in life change. So the duration of your relationships, for anyone out there listening, please don't judge the quality of your relationships by their duration. I see so many people negating their relationship or making it wrong because it ended. And then they assume that everything that occurred during the relationship was no longer true, correct, or a contribution. But that's not the case. It's done when it's done. Annalise out there says, yes, she is the relationship done different class helped her body, and the universe, and then everyone else. So how cool is that? Well, in a couple of weeks, Simone has one coming up, and it's actually meant to be live from the Antique Guild here in Brisbane. It's, I think, 4:30 in the afternoon until 7:30 at night for those of us here in Australian Eastern Standard Time. But it also is translated in all kinds of other languages, and you can tune in from online from all over the world and attend via Zoom. I'm going to share in the chat here the link for anyone who is interested. If you've not done this class, I can't tell you. There we go. I can't tell you how fabulous it is and what an amazing gift Simone Milasas is. So I'm sharing with you there the link for those of you who are interested. The other thing I want to share with you, because we've been talking a lot about creation and choice. I have a monthly class that I've been doing called, they're called Clarity Nights. And what a Clarity Night is every month or every Clarity Night, we do a topic where we have a conversation, run clearings, and talk about a different thing, whether it's business, whether it's relationship, whether it's money, whether it's anything you can imagine. And this month, it's actually on August the 4th, it's translated in a number of languages again, and the topic is creativity and creation. Now, creativity and creation, I'd like you to look at what you've defined that as and what you think it is, and we're going to give you a totally new perspective. People are free in these Clarity Nights to ask questions about the topic, and we deep dive into it and change things and look at things to change your perspective and give you more in any area. So whether that's creation, as we're doing this month, next month we're doing power. They're only 50 Australian dollars and they go for about an hour and a half. And we're going to run a lot of these things called access clearings, hence the clarity. They make you clear. And what an access clearing is we ask a question and that brings up an energy. Like, say, for example, if I ask you, what have you defined creation as? I ask that question and something comes up, and then we use the access clearing statement. And it's basically zaps the energy that you're using to define something right at the root and pull it out. So you have more space for something different to show up. So I'm going to put the link for that in the chat here too, for the next Clarity Night, which is in 6 days. 6 days, 6 days, 6 days. So Love to see all of you there. Thank you so much for those of you who tuned into the Mr. Christopher Show today. And we'll see you again next week. Bye, everybody.